There is a version of every man that died quietly, without a funeral, because the people around him needed him smaller. Not weaker, smaller, manageable, predictable, safe enough to keep close without feeling threatened by proximity. The mechanism by which this happens is so gradual, so socially rewarded at every stage, that the man who survives it will spend decades genuinely believing the smaller version was always the real one. In the movie Joker, Arthur Fleck does not become a cautionary tale only when Gotham erupts around him. He is already one, long before the riots, in the slow, daily decisions to remain acceptable, containable, and unthreatening inside a city that barely registers him as fully real. A man's potential does not erode from the outside. It is surrendered from the inside, in increments so small and socially validated that each one feels like maturity. Arthur Fleck never lacked ability. He lacked the neurological permission to treat his own capacity as real. And that distinction is the entire distance between a life and a slow disappearance. What the film captures is not only a man destroyed by the world, it is a man who has already spent years making himself smaller on the world's behalf, and is then stunned to discover the world accepts that arrangement. There is a specific threshold where prolonged compliance weaponizes itself against the host. Arthur's involuntary laugh on the subway, under pressure and humiliation, collapses into the daily, invisible asphyxiation we endure when we force our most capable instincts to wear the makeup of a polite employee. Abandoned potential does not disappear. It metabolizes. It grows feral, and it begins hunting us from the inside, in forms we would never have chosen, on a timeline we never controlled. The four mechanisms by which that conversion becomes irreversible are the only thing standing between us and the biography we are currently writing. And the first mechanism begins not in the dark, but in the daylight. In the performance of smallness that feels at every stage like generosity. Gotham is not a city of crime. It is a city of permission. Calibrated by class, enforced not by law, but by the quiet consensus of who is allowed to take up space. Thomas Wayne does not need to threaten anyone. He simply exists, and the distance between him and everyone else does the work automatically. Arthur inhabits the lowest rung of that structure. A clown for hire in a city that has stopped finding anything funny. Every institution he touches, social services, the comedy scene, the mental health system around him, processes him as a logistical inconvenience. That is the baseline. Not abuse, not malice. Indifference, administered at scale. And it is this indifference that constitutes the precise environment in which Arthur's potential will be quietly converted into something else. Chapter 1. The Permission Ceiling. Watch Arthur in the locker room at Ha-Ha's, staring into the small mirror in his locker with his makeup only half on. A couple of clowns are behind him, barely paying attention, and he hooks his mouth down into a tragedy mask, then drags it upward into an exaggerated smile until tears come to his eyes. What looks like preparation is actually the daily ritual of self-erasure. This is the permission ceiling, the invisible altitude above which a man refuses to imagine himself, not because the ceiling is real, but because bumping against it has been consistently, reliably painful. A joke that landed in silence. A laugh that embarrassed the room. Each one deposited a brick. On the surface, his deference looks like humility. Beneath it, it is the architecture of a man enforcing someone else's verdict about his own limits. We recognize it, not in Arthur's mirror, but in the pause before we speak in a meeting, the half-sentence swallowed before it becomes a real claim on the room's attention. Arthur never questions the logic of his smallness. He questions only his execution of it, whether he is being small enough, gratefully enough. That unquestioned ceiling, accepted as weather, is what forces him into the behavior we see next. Chapter 2: The Gratitude Trap. Arthur's social worker delivers the news with bureaucratic calm. The city is cutting funding. The offices are closing, and this will be their last meeting. And Arthur's response, trained for decades not to demand anything, is not rage but dependence. How am I supposed to get my medication now? Who do I talk to? He is sincerely asking for instructions on how to remain manageable now that the system managing him is gone. When a person has received so little that mere acknowledgement begins to function as generosity, they become structurally incapable of demanding more. The clown job, humiliating, dangerous, precarious, he holds with both hands, not because he values it, because it is proof that someone, somewhere, decided he was marginally useful. He doesn't protect the job. He protects the evidence that he exists in someone's ledger. We have done the same arithmetic, kept a role that diminished us because losing it meant confronting whether we were worth more. The trap closes the moment you begin measuring yourself in someone else's currency. Arthur never thinks to mint his own, and the reason he cannot is the third mechanism, already running in the background, invisible because it was installed so early it feels like personality. Chapter 3: The Validation Dependency. Arthur watches Murray Franklin the way a man in solitary watches sunlight through a slot. Not for warmth, for proof that warmth exists. His fantasy is not fame. It is the specific moment where Murray sees him, names him, and the audience approves. Not achieved, affirmed. He never imagines what he would do with the platform. He imagines only the reception, the applause, Murray's laugh. The validation dependency feels like ambition. It presents itself as wanting something. But wanting to be seen is not the same as wanting to build. A man who needs external confirmation that his capacity is real will never take the unwitnessed risks that actual development requires. Every ounce of effort routes immediately through the question of how it will be received, which means it is never fully his. We know the paralysis of waiting for someone to call our idea good before we allow ourselves to believe it. When Murray finally brings him out on television, after replaying Arthur's failed stand-up clip for the audience, and after Arthur has asked to be introduced that way backstage, Arthur is introduced as Joker rather than Arthur Fleck. The authority he appointed delivers the verdict the permission ceiling always promised. Which is why what happens next is not madness. It is the fourth mechanism, the one the hook left unnamed, arriving now on schedule. Chapter 4: The Metabolized Self. Abandoned potential does not stay abandoned. It converts. Arthur did not choose to become the Joker all at once. The Joker is what Arthur's buried capacity looks like after years of pressure, humiliation, fantasy, and indifference finally lose their restraints. The intelligence was always there, the stage presence, the capacity to hold a room, disrupt its complacency, force it into a reckoning. None of it disappeared. It fermented. This is the metabolized self, the version of you that grows in the dark. What looks like a breakdown is the bill arriving for every ceiling accepted without question, every gratitude that's sedated rather than oriented, every validation outsourced to an authority never qualified to hold it. The Joker is not a new person. He is Arthur Fleck after the structure containing him gives way. And the reason he is terrifying is not that he is alien, it is that he is recognizable. We feel it in the specific, uncomfortable place where his laugh becomes something we have almost laughed. At the edge of a room that fell silent, in the throat we constricted, in the moment we chose small over real. We are always metabolizing something. The only question that has ever mattered is whether we are metabolizing toward the life we are capable of or the one we were told we deserved. The dark diagnosis. Arthur Fleck's tragedy is not that Gotham broke him. Gotham barely had to try. The real work was done by 4 mechanisms operating in a slow braid, each one feeding the others, each one feeling at every stage like a reasonable accommodation to reality. The diagnostic question is not what went wrong with Arthur Fleck. It is at which mechanism you are currently pausing. The ceiling you have stopped questioning, the gratitude sedating you, the validation you are waiting on, the conversion already running in the background. Most men will not burn anything down. The metabolized self rarely arrives so dramatically. It arrives as the permanent, normalized distance between who you became and who you were always capable of being. It starts looking like just the way things are.